Welcome to Beyond Movement Project. My name is Matthew Philly, husband, father, entrepreneur, and it's my mission to bring you people who are doing incredible things that will help you reach your next level. Join me as I look beyond movement to discover how we can become the most powerful version of ourselves. Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 1 of Beyond Movement Project. Today's guest is a CFL running back that started his career with the Toronto Argonauts and quickly moved over to play for his hometown in Ottawa, and after only playing there for a single season, won the Grey Cup. In this episode, we dive deep into what it takes mentally to constantly perform at the highest level, how to keep your head on straight when the stakes are high, strategies to own your mindset, and so much more. This is episode 1 with Brendan Gillanders. All right, Brendan Gillanders, man, thank you for joining me. Beyond Movement Project. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm amazing, man. So for the people who don't know who you are a running back for the Ottawa Redblacks, which is a CFL team in Ottawa, right?
Yep,
Canadian
exactly.
Football League.
Yeah, exactly. Going into my 7th year professionally playing football.
Yeah, man, 7 years. That's a long time, right? Like we were just talking before starting this episode about how you feel like now you're actually getting to be one of the older players on the team. What does that feel like at this point?
You kind of feel a responsibility to take on a little bit more of a leadership role. It's something that just naturally happens. I've always just been the type that tries to lead by basically taking control of the situation and just trying to get others to buy into the system. I'm not a huge talker, so I just kind of let my play and my work ethic do the leading for me. But it's a little bit different, but it's fun. You know, you get a bunch of new guys coming in to the team every single year, and it kind of makes you feel young, at least.
So you said that you have to naturally take on a bit more of a leadership role. Do you feel like that's something that comes naturally to you, or do you feel like you actually need to work on that on a daily basis? Is it that much of an important role in the team that you have to take on, where you feel like this is something that you need to develop?
I've always kind of considered myself a leader. It's something that has come naturally to me. I mean, I've been captain of football teams going all the way back from when I was 10 years old type thing. So I grew up in the football culture, and I had examples of amazing leadership from teams, and I've had examples of terrible leadership from teams. And every single person that you play with, you kind of take the good and the bad away from them, and kind of develop your own leadership style. And I think the more people that you can relate to on the football team, or the more cohesive you get as a unit or as an entire football team, the better off your chances are at winning, for sure.
That's powerful, man. And you said that you've seen examples of good leaders versus bad leaders. Is there anything that's really stuck out that has helped you on that journey to naturally feeling like a better leader yourself? Like, is there anything that's really stuck out as a bad leader versus a good leader that helps you lead your team?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been, I'm not a get in your face or a loud person. I'm actually pretty quiet in social situations, so I've always been a lead by example type guy. So things that have stuck with me over the course of my career is being around guys that just have a tireless work ethic. I remember in 2013 and 2014, my first 2 years in the league when I was playing for the Toronto Argonauts, watching guys like Andre Dury and Chad Owens during practice and after practice. I mean, those guys just don't stop. It was absolutely incredible, whether it was just fine-tuning routes or after practice doing speed training, getting out some wickets and doing some runs. Like it was absolutely unbelievable. And that's something that definitely resonated with me because, they've got guys watching them and following them without even having to open their mouth. So that's something that I think is special when you can command a room just by the effort and level of engagement you put into a team situation is pretty impressive.
That's huge. In terms, like you've been mentioning a lot about work ethic, leading by example, how important is that to you as an individual? like obviously super important when it comes to, being a leader and stuff like that. But you as an individual, a human being, is that like an important trait that you like to live your life by?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even during the season, I'm only at the stadium for a few hours a day. First and foremost, I want to be known as a good person before I'm known as a good football player, and that will always be more important than me. I mean, Coach Campbell always used to have a saying that you need to pretend that football is the most important thing in the world, even though we all know that it's not. And that's something that really resonates with me as well. I mean, there's always going to be priorities that come before football. At the end of the game, or sorry, at the end of the day, it's my job and my livelihood for my family. But I'm much more concerned about how the public perceives me, or being able to do the right thing in any given situation off the football field as well.
That's super interesting, man. So leading your life as a genuine, like generous, kind-hearted person, that's something that you find to be far more important than anything on the field.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, football is not going to last forever. I'm fortunate to have as long of a career as I have, and I mean, I don't kid myself. I didn't get here by myself. I was fortunate enough to have great coaching from a young age, and there's a lot of coaches that coached me when I was 10 years old that I still go and have beers with right now, because I'm thankful for that situation. A lot of people aren't put in a situation like I was put into. So I do feel a responsibility to give back to the community when I can, because I wouldn't have got here without such an amazing support system from the community.
So you feel like paying back, like, showing your appreciation, that's something that you hold with a, like, really close to your heart.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I wouldn't have made it here without some great individuals when I was younger, and obviously my family and friends. But like I said, in terms of the community sport programs, playing for the Cumberland Panthers growing up, going through the Team Ontario U17 and Canada Cup tournaments, playing high school football at Sir Wilfrid Laurier in Orleans. I mean, all of those experiences kind of pushed me to where I am today, and I certainly wouldn't have got here without any of them. And they all kind of had a unique place on shaping me to become who I am now. So yeah, like you said, I do definitely feel a responsibility. If I can inspire one or two people a day or per practice, that I get to help out with those individuals and kind of rub off on them and allow them to keep pursuing their dreams, like I was told to, then that's a win for me at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's something that I feel like is so undervalued, man, is actually just understanding who's helped you get to where you are. Like, you don't have to bow down to them or anything like that, because at the end of the day, you don't necessarily owe them anything. But, it could come down to a sense of, feeling like you do owe them something. But, it comes to, do you understand who's helped you get to where you are, and can you truly appreciate them in this journey? A lot of people I see who are very successful, that don't have such a growth mindset, are kind of stuck in their own little bubble. They don't have much gratitude for others. And that's something that I feel like leading with gratitude can help you grow so much more. Is that something that you find that you've been very conscious of throughout your entire career, was like being very aware of, what you have in life right now, being fortunate enough to be able to play the sport that you love as a career, and then the people that have helped you got there? Is this something that's always like on the forefront of your mind?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a little bit different my first 2 years professionally, being in Toronto for 6 months of the year. But even then, I'd come back and live in Ottawa in the off season, just because I have such a connection to this community. It's like I said, NCAF, of the Amateur Football Association, is here in Ottawa, is the largest amateur football association in all of Canada. Ottawa has always been a huge football community, and they have such a great support system for up and coming football players. I mean, if you look at the football landscape in Ottawa over the past few years, we've had a ton of players go from playing high school football here in Ottawa to getting Div 1 scholarships down in the States. A couple of NFL players as well coming from Ottawa. So, I mean, I definitely feel a connection to the fan base here, and I definitely feel that it's important for guys that were put in a situation like me to go back and contribute to the football scene and continue to grow it. You don't grow sports from putting all of the money into professional organizations. It has to be from the grassroots. And if you can grow the popularity of the sport from the ages of 10 years old, you'll have just such a larger number of crop of players that could potentially excel as they get older. So, I mean, concentrating on grassroots football here in Canada, especially, is the way that the sport's going to grow.
Yeah, I love how you're repping all your gear too, all the Red Blacks gear. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to represent, right? How's
Exactly.
training been through COVID?
Oh, training. So before, like, the day it all went down, when we got told that we were basically being kicked out of the stadium gym and all of Lansdowne was being shut down, our athletic therapists were awesome. They let me take a bunch of equipment from our stadium gym. So for the most part of the quarantining period, I had a heavy sandbag, a couple of heavy kettlebells, a barbell with some bumper plates. I had like 300 pounds of bumper plates. So, I mean, it was okay, but it was tough in the early spring because the grass is still too wet to run on the grass. It's cold and rainy outside. So I was actually using a bus drop-off loop at one of the local schools to run on pavement for the first month and a half, and then the grass dried up and I got to start training that way. But for the most part, it was a lot of body weight exercises. And then once I got the barbell going in the garage, I could do some barbell complexes. I mean, it was cool because it let me focus on some of the exercises that I don't normally do. It was a lot of Olympic lifting. I mean, if I wanted to be able to front squat it, I had to be able to clean the weight, right? So it was a lot of clean and squats, a lot of jerks, that sort of thing. Snatches from the ground. And then for a pull-up bar, I actually I've got a series of hooks that are into studs in the garage. So I actually just took a wooden rake and broke off the metal rake part of the end. So I had a wooden bar and laid it across all the hooks. So I had my chin-up bar made out of a rake. But I mean,
you went straight MacGyver.
Yeah, exactly. Got to do what you got to do, right? I mean, at the time, my headspace was just like a lot of the US hadn't closed down and guys still had access to the gym. So I mean, I know that coming out of COVID, right, it's not like linebackers are going to take it easy on anyone just because you weren't able to train the same way as them. So I mean, at the end of the day, there's no excuses. So I did what I had to do, and I got by, and now we've been back at the stadium gym for 2 weeks now. So it's picking up, and I'm back to training the way I want to, which is really nice.
That's epic, man. And I know that you're somebody who, like, when you toss the headphones on, it's like grind time, right? Like you put your music on and like nobody can talk to you. You're in the zone, you're getting like, you're focused, right? So has that changed at all now that you're locked up training in your garage, which is clearly not the most exciting place to train? Has that changed at all? Or do you find that like, now it's like a little bit harder for you to get in the zone?
It probably accentuated it even a little bit more, to be honest. I think just mentally, I felt like I had to push myself a little bit harder because I wasn't training the ways that I was used to or wanted to. So if anything, I was probably concentrating a little bit more.
Really, eh? So what kind of music are you listening to usually? Do you you have your headphones on, or is it like podcasts? What do you like to listen to?
When I was in the gym, I was playing everything. Sorry, when I was in my garage, I was playing everything from a Bluetooth speaker. At the stadium, we have a sweet sound system, actually, which is awesome. We can get that pumping at the stadium gym. But I've got a couple of Apple Music playlists that I go to. Dad rock on Apple Music was one of the playlists I was pumping in the garage a lot. But I listen to everything. Like, my musical taste is anything. Generally, I'll listen to rock or hard rock from the 70s, 80s, 90s type thing. Some of the grunge scene, but if guys are in the gym and blasting rap music and stuff like that, I can get into that too. So I'm not too picky that way, as long as it's loud.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go back a little bit. You've been saying that you've been playing football since you were 10 years old. So you're going on like 19 to 20 years of playing football. That's insane, right? So one of the things I love the most about you is like you're basically living everybody's, at least all my young friends' childhood dreams. You know, like when we were a kid, we'd play in the ODR, outdoor hockey rink. Playing hockey all the time, road hockey. We'd always pretend we're one of the Ottawa Senators, you know, like, or any famous player, like, I want to be Wayne Gretzky, you know, all these kids will say that kind of stuff. And one of our dreams as a kid is to, you know, play these sports that we love to play for our home team. That's like literally one of the biggest dreams. And you're actually doing that now. So how does that feel like if you could go back and basically tell your childhood self that this is a position that you'd be in? How do you think that conversation would go?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I played a lot of sports as a kid. I was just an athletic kid. Uh, I always found, I mean, I played baseball, soccer. I played hockey until I was 16, 17 years old. It just so happened that I mean, and I loved them all, but I guess it just so happened that football was the sport that I was the best at and potentially had a future. And I mean, to be honest, it just kind of started organically where I was playing competitively in the spring and summer in the OVFL for the Cumberland Panthers, and university coaches started coming up to me and basically saying, hey, we want you to come to the university and we can offer you scholarship money and stuff like that. And then football became a way to help me pay for university. And that's really when it started getting serious, is when I realized that I could get my education paid for through playing football. And I thought that that was cool. And even at that point, I still don't think I had professional football aspirations at that point. I don't think I was one of the kids that grew up saying, I want to play professional football. If anything, it was probably the opposite. I was probably like you on the ODR saying, I want to play professional hockey. And then realized how competitive it was, and realized that probably about 16 years old that, yeah, I'm not good enough. And then like I said, it turned out that I was good enough at football. And it's not that I loved hockey more than football. I absolutely love football. I love everything about it. I always have since, like I said, started playing at the age of 10. But football is a little bit different here in Canada. Like you say, we grow up starting to play hockey when we're 3 years old. And I didn't start football until I was 10. So it's a little bit of a different journey. But yeah, I wouldn't trade any of it. If anything, I would have just told my younger self, keep having fun. And if it's supposed to happen, it'll happen, because that's more or less what it did. If you're good enough, the sport will find you. Nowadays, you have so many kids putting so much pressure on themselves that they're going to selection camps and tryout camps and showcases and combines, and it's a lot. I didn't do any of that stuff, and I mean, I'm still here, and unfortunately, a lot of that stuff is just money makers for the people that are running it. Not necessarily taking advantage of the kids, because all the times and stuff like that are posted. But if you're a good football player, then the universities and high schools and competitive leagues will find you, and it'll happen organically. There's no need to put pressure on yourself.
So you never really saw it as, like, as a kid and growing up until you were basically, you know, halfway through your university career, you never really saw it as something that you were going to pursue into actually like a career for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It, like I said, when I was in high school in grade 10 is when the university scouts started coming by, and there was quite a bit. There was a lot of recruiting interest throughout my high school career. I actually had a couple of schools down in the States asking me to write SATs as well, so I could qualify to go down there. So the interest picked up, but yeah, it probably wasn't until third year university that I actually realized, hey, I could do this professionally. But for me, I think the reason why that happened is just because I was having so much fun. Like, honestly, I had so much fun playing football. I only really had maybe one or two bad experiences throughout my entire career, where things started going off the rails a little bit, or injuries happened and kind of set me back, or I didn't click with certain coaching staffs or the team dynamic or something like that. It literally was super rare. Like, I had so much fun my entire career that it was just kind of flying by, and then all of a sudden I'm in third year university playing football, and I'm like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I might be able to make money off of it. So it was it was a fun process. I wasn't worried about the outcome or the 10-year plan. I was worried about the next play on the field, and I had fun every single year, and I loved my time at the University of Ottawa. So like I said, I wasn't ever putting pressure on myself. I was just having fun with the guys.
Dude, I feel like that's something that's so huge, regardless of what your goals are, just having fun with the process. You know, I tell my coaches, I tell a lot of young entrepreneurs, young coaches that are coming up in the scene, that this is something that that literally will propel you forward, is if you can find joy within the process and keep your eyes on the process and find the little things that you can enjoy through that, as opposed to focusing solely on the money, solely on, you know, gaining this amount of clients, gaining this amount of reputation. Focus on the process and doing the right things consistently. And that's something that will always play a bigger part. So that's something that I actually, you know, I vibe with hard, that I feel like that's huge for, regardless of what your goals are, to achieve that next level for yourself. Enjoy the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. It's talking about internal motivators versus external motivators for sure. And I mean, a lot of the time there's a lot of cross bridging between the two, but I mean, if at the end of the day, you have to be your biggest supporter and biggest fan. And if you're not having fun doing something, it is so hard to invest time and energy into it. It is so much easier to train on a daily basis, to eat right, when you know that you're going to have fun doing it, or you're going to have fun for the purpose of doing it, which is awesome. And that's basically how my career started. Is, like I said, I just had so much fun throughout the whole process, where it got to, and then it finally got to the point where, hey, I can probably do this professionally. And even then, it was still my decision. It wasn't external factors or guys saying, hey, you need to do this to make it professionally. I just I love the game. I fell in love with the game, and I had fun doing it the whole time.
Yeah, dude, like, not only that, but what's the point if you're not enjoying it, right?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that the whole purpose of life, really, is like finding what you enjoy and trying to do more of that? Like, instead of, for a lot of people, it's they work their balls off, and then they look forward to that Friday evening where they can sit back and have a drink and not have to work. And then Monday comes, and like that loop of depression starts over again, right? Like, finding that medium where you can be excited to go back to work, it's few and far between. You don't see it very frequently. And it's crazy. I think there was a survey done in the States where over 70% of people are unhappy with their life. And I feel like a huge part of that is simply because so many people are afraid to follow what they love to do and try and dive into that head first, because, you know, going into the unknown can be a scary thing. Right. So I feel like that is just such a powerful thing to live by, is just like enjoy, be happy. And if you're having fun with it, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, I would 100% agree. You have to have fun in the process. I mean, obviously it's important to have outcome goals and things like that. But at the end of the day, like you said, if you're only out of 7 days a week, that's not a life that I want to live personally. And I don't think I could do that. I mean, you're wasting 5 out of 7 days. So
yeah, 100%, man. And like, to say that being happy in the journey doesn't mean that it's all, you know, sunshine and rainbows, right? Like, there's still discipline, there's still grind to be in, like, to have in the process. You still have to work hard and stuff like that. And that's where a sense of fulfillment comes from. Working hard without any challenge, there's really not much of a sense of fulfillment, because we are humans, and humans are, we're used to some form of adversity and overcoming that adversity. And that's where a strong self of fulfillment can come from. So if you're not challenged in your job, you're going to be unfulfilled and unhappy with what you're doing. So the people that are finding, simplicity in their life, those are generally the people, not simplicity, I shouldn't say it like that. No challenge. Let's just keep it as simple as possible. Those are generally the people that don't have much drive and don't have much happiness within their life, because they don't get that surge of fulfillment from overcoming the obstacles and reaching their goals.
Yeah, you can't live life on autopilot. I'm with you 100%. I mean, it's let's put it this way, it's about finding your why, regardless of what you're doing. If you can't answer the question of why you're doing something, that's a pretty good indication that you probably aren't happy with what you're doing, right? So that's basically how I approach every situation, is finding your why. Is it going to lead to a more fulfilling life, or is it not? And if it's not, then it's probably not that important to be doing in the first place.
Yeah, man. So it's funny you say that. Like lately I've been listening to a little bit more of Simon Sinek, and that's like literally his thing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
No, nope.
So he had like a super famous TED Talks that was on YouTube. I think it was possibly one of the most viewed TED Talks on YouTube. And it's literally talking about the power of the why and leading with the why. And so, he's a big advocate towards leadership and, developing stronger leaders in the community, regardless of what direction that means. But leadership and the why, they go so hand in hand together. So it's really cool that you said that. Is that something that you're thinking about on a frequent basis, is your why?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Exactly. I'm not the type of person, I'm pretty stubborn that way though. You will not be able to get me to do something if I don't want to do it, or if I don't think it's going to, either bring me joy or fulfillment or add something to my life. It's going to be very difficult for me to go out and do it. But I mean, at the same token, that gives me time to spend on some philanthropic stuff that I love doing, some guest coaching, giving back to the community. It gives me time to do all that stuff that I love to do, right? If I was wasting my time working generic jobs or doing things just because other people ask me to, then I wouldn't have nearly the amount of time that I do to invest in things that I love doing.
Yeah. So you mentioned like your why, you mentioned your work ethic and, leading by example and stuff like that. So clearly as a professional athlete, you rely on your body for your livelihood. This is something that if you get injured, if you get sick, whatever, then you're not essentially able to do the job that you're currently doing. You have to find something else to do. And that's obviously not the direction that is most obvious. You kind of want to stay in the position that you're in because, one, you love your football, you love playing the sport that you're playing, and you love your career. So let's talk about daily routines and how that plays a big part in your lifestyle versus your livelihood. Like, do you find that you have a daily routine that you need to follow, or is it something that you try and do your best to be healthy, you eat well and so on and so forth? Or is it something that no, every morning I follow this specific routine? Like myself, I wake up at 5 a.m. This is something that I try and do on a daily basis. My son wakes up at 6:30. So I'm up at 5 a.m. I'm in my office by 5:05 and I'm stretching and breathing. By 5:10, 5:15, I'm doing some form of Wim Hof style breathing, really challenging my lungs. And then after that, I'm reading and journaling until about 6, and then I take a cold shower. And this is something I try and do on a daily basis. And I find that if I don't do this, this is the only time that I can actually work on myself, because my kids are always around, right? So I actually try and get up earlier to work on myself. Is this something that you find is very important to you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm, I'm very, very routine based to the point where I don't like when my routine gets messed with. But to say that, yeah, like I normally go to bed, uh, fairly early. Like I'm normally in bed at like 9:30, which basically allows me to sleep in until about 7. But every day I'll get up at 7, regardless of if I have to get up or not. I have a breakfast shake that I have 6 days a week, the same breakfast shake. I'm at the stadium training from 10 to noon on every single Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I basically, what helps me with my routines is I write everything down. I write everything down, whether it's a workout plan or a weekly schedule. I write everything down, and what it does is it keeps me accountable. That's the only way that I find works for me personally. I've tried to do it on a whim. I've always wrote my workouts down, but I've tried to basically change up my weekly gym schedule or change up my running schedule or things like that. And it's so hard to stay accountable or on track when something is not written down. Whereas if you wake up, look at your phone, see your daily schedule, at 10 o'clock, you have to be at the gym. At noon, you're running on the field doing this agility workout. At 4 o'clock, I'm guest coaching somewhere in Manitic type thing. And then I know what I'm having for dinner. I write everything down, and the routine helps. It really does. And it keeps me accountable. I'm not someone who could go out and do what I do right now if I didn't have a structured plan. I'm not. I like the structure. Like I said, for one, it keeps me accountable, and two, it takes all the guesswork out. I know when I have downtime. I know when I have free time. I know when it's time to get to the gym, and I know when it's time to go. So, routine definitely helps.
Awesome. And is there something in your daily routine that you find has a bigger impact on your day versus the rest of the things?
Um, thing, I mean, I love going to bed early. I'll say that that's a huge part of what I do. And then the other thing is the post workout cool down and breathing, putting my legs up on the wall and just breathing practice from there as well kind of helps reset. Um, but other than that, it's like I said, the biggest thing that helps me, I think, is just having the routine written down, having the weekly schedule written down, doing the same things consistently week in, week out. You build habits that way. It becomes routine. Like I said, you're following a routine, but it becomes habits after a certain period of time, right? So where everything becomes naturally, and it doesn't feel um, like I'm training or doing anything like that. I'm just living life, and that's what I do. That's how I live my life. So it helps keep me accountable. And like I said, that way, once it becomes a habit, it doesn't necessarily feel like any type of sacrifice or anything like that anymore. It helps mentally with the grind for the entire process.
Yeah, so you're talking a lot about habits and how that plays a big part for you. Are you aware of like the habits that are doing you a disservice? And is that something that you've constantly been pushing for, like improving and actually changing it, flipping that habit to being something that will serve you towards your goals? Is this something that you try to be aware of?
I'm probably the opposite in all honesty, and I'm sure my wife would tell you the same thing, that I probably go too far into the routine, that on the weekends and stuff like that, I need to relax. I'm wound up is what I say. And I work with a mental health coach, basically, Chantal, and we work a lot basically on just calming down, whether it's my mind or my body, because I'm always wound up, right? It's stimulants before a workout, stimulants before a game. It's what I do for a living is based purely off of adrenaline. And it's hard to calm my body down. So that's been the biggest thing in the past 2 years, is adding basically measures to calm my body down at the end of the day, so that I'm not just always up here and burning myself out constantly. I need to learn to be able to relax more, and I need to be able to and I say enjoy life, but like I said, I love and enjoy the process, but at the same time, balance is everything. And I need to be able to realize that if, I miss the gym one day to go to the beach with friends, it's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? So it's, if anything, it's probably the opposite that way in terms of I need to relax just a little bit in what I do.
Yeah. So how long have you been working with Chantel, and, has that been something that's been super impactful for you in your career?
It is. It's definitely super impactful. She worked with the Red Blacks as a whole team 2 years ago, and I started working with her one-on-one primarily all last year, and it's super important. I kind of reach out to her whenever I need her, and in terms of mental skills training, it's huge. One of the big things that we were working on, like I said, is being able to calm my body down at the end of the day, but also the other big thing is rephrasing in terms of mental attitudes and stuff like that. As an example, I'll say on kickoff return, right? Kickoff return is not the most fun special team. You have to try and block someone who has a 50-yard run full speed at you, and a lot of the time they're significantly bigger than me. So trying to block someone like that isn't very fun. And it's just about rephrasing your mindset, and instead of thinking about, I hope I don't miss this block, it's thinking about things that you need to do to execute the block, or what you need to be, or how the mindset that you have to be. And it's rephrasing in your mind, basically, or reshaping your mental attitude towards things that you don't like to do but are part of life or part of the job. And that's been huge for me as well.
Again, coming down to focusing on the process, right? As opposed to
Exactly.
thinking about the outcome. It's
Yep.
like, again, doesn't matter what your goals are, right? Like focusing on the process will always have a bigger outcome.
Yeah.
So what is one thing that, can you explain a little bit of what you and Chantel work on? Like, is there specific exercises that you guys are doing? Can you chat a little bit about that? Or is that something that's kind of like confidential work?
No, that's okay. Shanta, I'll give her a little shout out since I'm talking about her too. But she works with Elysian Insight. I'll send you the information if you can put like a little infographic or something like that. She does a lot of social media work and puts a lot of good stuff out there. So
Cool.
if anyone's watching and wants to check out her social media accounts, I'd highly suggest it, and that'd be a good thing. But yeah, no, we've worked on a lot of stuff. Like I said, the recharacterization in the mind, and has been huge. Cooling down at the end of the day. We basically came up with a pre-bed ritual that I do mainly after games, because after games I can't sleep. Like, it's literally takes about 48 hours for my body to completely calm down. I'll just I literally won't be able to sleep for about a day and a half after a game. Just because I'm wound up so much. And then, like I said, the rephrasing. And then the other thing is, we've done a lot of positive self-talk, and we'll talk about what I feel in terms of technical skills, tactical skills, and mental skills I need to perform certain tasks related to football, whether it's blocking on special teams or running with the ball. And she comes up with basically awesome self-talk manuscripts that I go over every day before games, situations like that. So we do a lot of time and spend a lot of time talking on things that I'm nervous about, things that I did great, positive reinforcement, self-talk. It's a weapon, the game is, like everyone says, the game's 90% mental, and that's a lot of aspects in life. Perspective is everything. I mean, you could go through the exact same thing as somebody else and have two completely different perspectives about the experience. And, it's really nice to have an outside perspective when it comes to certain things that apply to my job, and that could potentially make me better. I don't want to be standing on the field in my head saying, man, I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to mess this up. Don't miss your block. Don't miss your block. Don't miss your block. That's not helping anything. And it naturally happens to everybody. But if you can reduce that over the course of a game or a season, I mean, it pays off tremendously, and confidence is huge. Confidence is huge. If you're not thinking about what you have to do on the field, you can look athletic. If you're constantly self-doubting or second guessing what you're doing on the field, it's really hard to look athletic. And that, it's like the coaches say in training camp, you can't get on the field until you know the playbook, because technically and tactically you're second guessing what you're doing in terms of if you're doing the play right. Well, the exact same thing happens. You could know exactly what you're supposed to do, but the voice in your head could be saying, don't screw it up, as opposed to you got this, or you're going to kill it. You know what I mean? So it's been a huge help in terms of whenever negative voices creep into my head or something like that, it redirects the energy into a positive manner and gives me a little bit more confidence in what I'm doing.
Oh, I hear you, man. I feel like in the evenings, that's something that so many people struggle with, like daily stresses, just not being able to calm that mind down a little bit. That's something that plays, kind of plagues people on a daily basis. Like they're tired all day, from the moment they get out of bed to the moment that, they get home from work, they're exhausted. Then they sit down, watch TV, they're tired, they go up, lay down in bed, can't sleep, right? That's something that, you see a lot of people struggling with that. The stress gets to them and they think, oh, I should have done this at work, because now there's no distractions anymore. No more distractions. And now these thoughts that they were once, distracting themselves from are coming in, and now they're giving themselves the time to actually think about it. And the only time that this comes in is in bed when there's nothing else, right? So a lot of people will sit there and think, I should have said this at this meeting. I should have stood up for myself during this. Whatever the case is, and whatever people are struggling with in the evening, it's super common, right? So I feel like, is there something that you can share from your pre-bed routine that, might be helpful for someone who's listening who does struggle with that? Like, is there a specific step-by-step process that you take in this pre-bed routine to help you calm your mind and your body?
Yeah, big thing is progressive muscle relaxation. There's some good YouTube videos on how to do it. Basically, it's contract relax of muscles, basically starting from your extremities, working your way in to your body. But that really helps in terms of cooling my body down. There's some chamomile tea. And then the other thing is people talk about gratitude journals and stuff like that. And for me, that's always been something that's super hard to do. Not necessarily because I don't feel gratitude, but sometimes when it's like, okay, I have to think of 5 things that I'm grateful for today. And then
when you're forcing yourself to do it.
Exactly. Eventually, by the end of the week, having 45 things that you're grateful for that week, like, it becomes stale, right? So a lot of the time I'll just start with a blank page of paper and just write. Literally, like, not have any topic, not have any prompt or anything, and just write what comes to my mind. And then sometimes when I reflect on it the next morning, sometimes it's what I would have done differently in terms of my programming for training that day. Sometimes it's just mentally spewing out what was in my head if something was bothering me that day. But not having a prompt works better for me than writing something with a prompt, just because what you're grateful for doesn't necessarily cover the anxiety that you dealt with public speaking that day. You know what I mean? So sometimes it just helps me just to air out what's in my head. And sometimes the things that I write and I look back on it, it's surprising. So, it's really like a two-tiered approach where we do the progressive muscle relaxation, and that kind of calms down my body. And then also I'll write out, like, literally I don't even put a limit on what I'll write out, but it helps with the mental state as well. So I'm getting the body and the mind just a little bit refreshed before I go to bed.
Dude, that's unreal. That's something that I actually do myself as well. A few years back, I struggled quite a bit with anxiety for different reasons, and different things that would come up would really induce, like, I would call them panic attacks, but regardless, it was anxiety induced discomforts, right? And never understanding what was setting this off and why these panic attacks were coming up. I would chalk up journaling to being something that basically has completely changed my life. Just with being more aware of my feelings in general, which to me is not something that I've ever really paid attention to. I grew up with a pretty hard dad who was like, stop crying kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like, it was all just like push your emotions away. So I never really understood why I was feeling these things, shortness of breath, starting to feel panicky, palms are sweating, whatever the case is. And I feel like, and I do the same practice, man. Like when I journal, there's no like agenda. It's just, write what comes to mind basically, and just try and like put it all on the paper and see what happens. And a lot of the times I'm writing about my frustrations. I'm writing about what's causing me to feel some form of what I initially perceive as fear. And it's really helpful to see these on paper and really be able to break them down. Like, okay, so public speaking, that's a fear of mine. Why is that a fear? What, like, break it down. Oh, I'm afraid of what people will think of me. I'm afraid of saying the wrong things. I'm afraid of looking stupid in front of a crowd. Whatever that is, just being able to write all of that down is such like a game-changing thing that most people don't go through. Writing your gratitudes, as you said, it gets kind of stale after a long period of time. I try not to write too much about that, but when I do, it feels so much more powerful. Like it means something more to me at that point. But I love what you said, how, you don't really have like a plan. You just kind of start writing and then you reread it the following day. So you reread it in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. And the rereading is in all honesty what I find kind of interesting, because I don't worry about it before bed. Like I write what I write and then I try and go to sleep, right? Like I said, I go to bed early most days, like at 9:30. So I'll wake up and read it the next morning. But I mean, like you said, so some of what was on my mind is interesting based off the day of the week, the time of the year. Some of these things you aren't even aware that you feel that way, and that's what's important, is making that connection. Like, hey, I wrote this yesterday, and yesterday, like, I didn't know that I was internalizing this. You know what I mean? Like, is that maybe why I was just feeling a little bit off? Or it's important to go back and read through your experiences, because it helps you in the future.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. And I feel like writing a journal and having a journal, it can get really, really deep at times, and something that you're not really prepared to or willing to at this moment share with anybody else, sorry. So I feel like having a journal, it should be like well known that nobody touches your journal, and then that way you can be wholeheartedly open to writing anything down and just getting it all off your chest and without fear. Right. So I feel like that's something that, for a lot of people, that should just be like a thing, a rule with your family, a rule with your friends, whoever that you live with, or that may be coming around your journal. Nobody is allowed to touch it. And that's just something that I feel is helpful, in the fact that it will help you not be judgmental of yourself while you're writing.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be honest with yourself, right? The more you're able to really get internal and express what you felt or how you felt, or it could literally even be insignificant. Like I said, the majority of time it's stuff that I programmed, like, hey, these 2 sets from my workout today were stupid, let's change up the exercise. You know what I mean? It doesn't always have to be super deep, but sometimes you need it to be. And like you said, you need that privacy. And I definitely think that it's a valuable tool to, when you go back and read it, to help you deal with similar situations in the future, and being able to express it verbally in the future, what you might not be able to express right now other than in written form. You might be able to verbally express it in the future, because you're no longer internalizing what was causing you problems on that day. So I think that it's a very valuable tool for sure.
Yeah. Is this something that you found to be pretty impactful to your game, your personal game?
Yeah, Yeah, definitely. It helps for sure. I'm definitely someone that internalizes everything. Like I said, my wife often refers to me as a brick wall, and that's not because I don't show emotions, but it's like people can tell when something's wrong, and I'm not willing to talk about it openly, right? Like I internalize a lot of things or situations where I'll go through something and someone will be like, "Are you okay?" And it's yeah, and you shrug it off. Meanwhile, you have the self-awareness that you know it's not. You just don't want to deal with it right then. Well, if you never deal with it, that's a problem, right? If you start internalizing everything and not dealing with the situations that are either upsetting or cause you anxiety, I mean, that's going to be a significant problem down the road. Whereas at least writing it down and being able to see it and read it on a paper the next day, it's a tool, it's a weapon to help you control situations in the future.
Now, since we're on the topic of mindset and, all that good stuff, I want to kind of go back to the beginning of your career. So at the CFL Combine, you injured your foot, dislocated your foot, was it?
Yeah, it
Fractured
was
and dislocated?
Lis Frank fracture dislocation.
Okay. So at that point, basically, I want to know like what was going through your head, because this is a period of time where you have a lot of people looking at you, potentially getting ready to go through the CFL draft. So let me know what goes through your head when you have, a career stopping injury at that point, right before your career's even started, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty defeated. I really was, and it's a serious injury. I mean, it's emergency surgery that you need. It's tough to diagnose, and I mean, prior to 2007, or actually, sorry, prior to 2009, it was a career-ending surgery because it was replaced. It was fixed basically by screws and metal plates. And once that happens, then you lose any mobility in your forefoot and you can't run properly. So, I mean, I was fortunate enough that like I said, a procedure was developed in 2009 called tightrope fixation, which was a different surgical method of repairing it. And I had access to that, but even then, during the surgery, they actually had to get the product rep for the actual fixation to come and oversee the surgery because it was so new at the time. And I was fortunate. I had a long recovery, but it obviously worked out. But yeah, I mean, I chalk it up to feeling defeated. I mean, there's no worse place or time to hurt yourself than in front of every CFL coach and general manager, all in the building at one time. So, yeah, I felt defeated, and I credit my ability to get back to my work ethic for sure. If I didn't have as strong of a work ethic as I did, I wouldn't be back. I mean, I was in a hard cast bench pressing. I couldn't put my foot on the ground, but I was doing upper body workouts, getting guys to load plates on the barbell for me. So I mean, I didn't really miss an upper body workout, and then as soon as I could walk and run and stuff like that, I would. And like I said, I credit a lot of that to my work ethic, which I definitely also I've gone on record a lot talking about me getting my work ethic from my dad, who's again got a crazy work ethic, and I try and model what I do after what he's done. But I mean, coming back from something like that is, in all honesty, it's a life-defining moment. It really is, because it can go one of two ways. It could have ended my football career, and I could have justified any apprehension or anxiety or fears I had about making it to the next level by just simply stopping. There's no reason why I had to go and try and play professional football. I was going to get a degree in human kinetics from the school. And like I said, if it wasn't for my love of the game and my work ethic, and by that time wanting to play professional football, I could have stopped. So it was a crossroads in my life. And man, looking back, I'm so glad that I worked as hard as I did and pushed through it to get back.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that's changed the course of your life forever, right? Now, you were talking about your dad, and he's somebody who's been, a had a huge impact on your life, obviously. He was in the Navy for 20 years, volunteer firefighter, marathon runner. Um,
Yeah.
have you found that you try to emulate that, or is it something that's just kind of ingrained in you?
Um, I mean, I try. In all honesty, I think it's a combination of both because um, he having him around my entire childhood, it was inspirational. It really was, watching him do these things. I mean, he was never scared of trying something new. He never once was scared of trying something new. He'd be in the Navy, and yeah, for the first few years of my life he'd be gone for 6 months at a time, but I mean, I had the most amazing mom at the same time who raised me and my two sisters when my dad was gone. And I didn't miss out on any sports. My mom would come into the change room and be the only girl in there tying my skates when I was 3 years old with all the dads. So, I mean, she was amazing. But like I said, my dad was an absolute inspiration. I mean, his years of military service, I admire that. And then once I mean, he only got out of the Navy. I'm not kidding myself. He only got out of the Navy because my sisters and I were at an age where we really didn't want to move anymore. So, I mean, he retired from the Navy. I'm sure he had his personal reasons, but also for the sake of the family. And I can admire that because it takes courage to do something and put the family ahead of yourself first, right? And then, like you said, after that, he started volunteer firefighting. He was never once scared to do that. Started running marathons, never one. He trained, started doing 5K, 10K, half marathons, full marathons. I mean, he's an example of setting a goal and doing whatever it takes to reach it. I haven't seen him fail at trying something, and that's inspirational. You know, it shows you that you don't have to be good at something. You just have to start. And starting's the hardest part. Working up the courage to start something new is the hardest part. And he has never been scared to do that. And I find inspiration from that.
Yeah, building that momentum, right? Like getting the ball
Yeah.
rolling is always the hardest part. Getting that, pushing the rock up the hill, kind of, so to speak, right? Like you're pushing, you get to that top of the hill, and then the ball starts rolling and everything gets a little bit more simple after that. So yeah, I love everything you're saying, man. I have one final question for you. What do you think is the number one thing? And this is like through all your experiences that you've had, going through an intense career of, it takes strong discipline to do what you do, right? Like you have to avoid going out to parties every weekend when you see your friends having the best of times. Avoid having those drinks when you see them getting, having the best time and drinking. And we a lot of times we enjoy doing that stuff, but for the greater good to reach your goals, that's not always something that you want to follow in order to reach your aspirations, right? So what is the number one thing that you feel separates high performers from those that don't reach their goals?
I think it's definitely the mindset. I mean, people always ask people who aren't in professional sports. Let me put it this way: people who haven't played professional sports or aren't in professional sports talk about those things as sacrificing. But if you ask me, I haven't sacrificed a single day in my life because I get to do what I love to do and make money off of it. I do what I have to do to live the life that I want to. And instead of, it's about reframing in the mindset, just like I talked about earlier. Perspective is everything. I mean, you talked about missing out on parties and stuff like that. And yeah, sometimes it gets hard, but instead of in your mind thinking about that as a sacrifice, it's about reframing it into an opportunity to get up the next morning and train and live the life you want to do. I mean, sure, I kid myself. Like I said, a lot of people would call that the things I go through, the things I put my body through, or like you said, not going to parties, just having to be the discipline that I live with on a daily basis, as sacrificing a lot of things. But at the end of the day, I honestly feel like I'm one of the select few that gets to do what they love for a living. And that's special. And I don't take that for granted. And some people take that for granted. And I think that's where that mindset flips. And it's hard for them to maintain consistent habits. Whereas, like we talked about earlier, when you fall in love with the process and you love what you do, I don't see them as sacrifices whatsoever. I see them as taking advantage of opportunities to give myself the best possible situation, either the next day, the same day, 10 years down the road. And like you said, I mean, I'm going into year 7, and I honestly think if I didn't have that mindset, or I lived a different lifestyle, I wouldn't be here. And some people are so naturally gifted that it really doesn't matter. They can do whatever they want and still perform to a professional standard. But the vast majority of us need to hold this kind of discipline in order to consistently make it. And that's what separates people that play 1 or 2 years in the CFL from people that play 10 years in the CFL, is the mindset and the discipline that they live with on a daily basis, and just being able to enjoy the practice and reframing in your mind from a thought of this is what I have to sacrifice to this is what I love doing and I'm creating opportunities for myself.
So reframing your perspective, that's huge, man. So changing from this is what I have to sacrifice to this is what I'm doing for myself for the greater good. I love it, man.
Absolutely.
That's awesome and super powerful, especially for those who are going through entrepreneurial journeys that, you know, they will see a lot of times they're younger individuals and they will see their friends going to parties. They will see their friends doing all these fun things and they start to feel jealous or, you know, like they're missing out. However, down the road, they will be at a position where they're much more comfortable and they've gone through those hardships initially that will lead them to a life that they are ultimately very grateful for and happy for.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. I really appreciate your time. This was so fun. It was really cool getting into your perspective and seeing how, you know, how you drive your mindset to be, you know, especially perform at a high level like you do.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. It's good talking. I always learn a ton about myself when we get to talk candidly like this too. So it's enlightening for me as well.
Yeah, man. So where can people find you on Instagram? What's your handle?
Instagram's Gillanders25.
Awesome, brother. All right. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, no problem. Good talking to you. Good seeing you, Matt.
Cheers.